So I'm recording this pretty late. I admit that's not actually fully because this episode took me as long to deal with as uh actually no, it took well, yeah, it took me about 5 hours to get to this point, roughly. To finally chalk up the courage because all right, look, there's no nice way to say this. I am going to have two very unpopular opinions going forward, and one not so unpopular opinion, I think. Let's get the not so unpopular opinion out of the way right off the bat. Part 4 got the point for the sub. As I turn off my thing because I don't need that now. Uh, but yeah, no. Part 4 got the point for the sub, and everything else was just neither. And my phone is going off because to tell you how late I'm recording this. Because that's when I'm working midnights, that's my alarm. Yes, it's a Legend of Dragoon tune. Anyways, you don't care. So part 4 got the part for the sub. So yes, Jonouchi Dies is a better episode than Return of Darkness Part 4. To just make that nice and crystal clear and obvious and everything else. Alright. Allow me to be real with you for a second here. Okay? This is a D rank episode for me. And that. Oops, sorry. Bumped the mic. This is a D rank episode, okay? And it is. I will go ahead and I will say, yes, this episode did dip in quality for me. This episode did go down in my estimation upon rewatch. Maybe I've just become way too fucking. How do I put this? Maybe I've just become so enamored with the idea of proper pacing to the point where I'm sitting here like I want things to be properly paced, and I'm like, what am I trying to say? I think what it is I've become so fucking anal about pacing that I look at this episode and I'm just like these 4 episodes, and I'm just like, you could have easily have shrunk this down to 3 episodes. Without even fucking trying, you could have shrunk this down to 3 episodes. Now, I would argue part of that is part of that is get rid of that stupid dream subplot, because no, seriously, get rid of the dream. I'm not even going to I'm not even going to beat around the bush. Which when I say this, there was no reason for Clash in the Coliseum to be fucking 6 episodes. The only reason it's 6 episodes is because we have to do that fucking side story of like, you know. Now, am I saying that it couldn't last like 5 episodes? No, 5 episodes can still be how long your thing is, and it can still be good, well paced. Match of the Millennium. Millennium showed us that brilliantly, right? And the Anchor Duel in the Sub is another great example of that. That was 4 episodes, and in my blunt opinion, you chop any of that down, and you are losing so fucking much. Last time I mentioned the Five God combo, for example. That's another one. That's 3 episodes. You chop any of those, you chop that down at all, and you'd be losing a lot of the impact. Yes, I believe I said during my mind control video that you could have probably shaved it down, but even then, it's like there's a difference between can do something and should do something. Just because I think they could have shaved it down to 2 episodes does not mean I think they should have. Because the Osiris, you noticed I wasn't actually complaining about pacing during my mind control video. When I was talking about the Five God combo, I was not talking about the pacing being bad. I was actually kind of praising it because it was one of the few times that the pacing was actually good. This is an example of terrible fucking pacing and just awful amounts of fluff that does not need to be here. I talked last time about the difference between a filler arc that is just there to that exists solely to fill the runtime and fluff. Shit that is just wasting my time. Right. The flashbacks in these 4 episodes are a prime example, the example of fluff. AKA, get this out of my fucking, uh, get this out of my fucking episode. Get this fucking waste of my goddamn time out of my episode. Which is funny because it almost feels like the Duel kind of did this with its pacing. Like its pacing slowed down. So, okay. So I'll show it like this. So, okay. So, here's the pace, okay? And here's the time. As the time advanced, the pacing went down to the point where literally the only move from the Duel, well, okay, technically there's 2 moves. The only 2 moves in the entire Duel during Jonouchi Dies is Raw's attack and Joey collapsing because he couldn't call out his attack for Gilford, which honestly, I so lament that. I so lament that. Which is hilarious because you might think, well, wouldn't that screw over Marik? I've always mentally thought of both Yami Marik and Yami Bakura as beings beyond, basically demons of darkness, effectively, right? Whether or not they are subservient to Night Shroud, I can't say. The entity known as Darkness. Darkness from GX. I'm just calling him Night Shroud to distinguish him because calling him Darkness is one of the most generic things you could have fucking called him, but whatever. I mean, I suppose, but then again, I suppose Yami, whatever. Point is, point is, I feel like, how do I phrase this? How do I put this? I feel like Joey losing is just lamentable. Like, to the point where I almost wish the final battle against Marik, I almost wish things had gone like this. Okay? Marik is defeated, Joey collapses. We can still have him go code blue, as I like to call that, because what's funny is that that title is a lie, which is funny because half of these episode titles are lies. I'm not even kidding. Helpoemer is not the main focus of part 2. And Jonouchi dies in the first half of and Jonouchi does not die in the episode called Jonouchi Dies. Technically speaking, he doesn't die. He's on death's door at the end of this episode, which is hilariously dumb. But let's not get into that. Which is funny because I always wondered why it was that he was always on the edge of the Shadow Realm. Um, but then again, he also didn't get blasted by the Millennium Rod, so whatever. Ever, I guess. But yeah. So yeah, and there's my controversial opinion. I think Jonouchi should have won this. Now, how would this have? How would the rest of the series have gone? Oh, fucking simply, Yummy Marik disappears for no, yeah, for 9 episodes. Have him disappear for 9 episodes. Battle City ends with the duel between Yugi and Joey. We can have Yugi win. And that's perfectly fine. I'm not actually opposed to Yugi defeating Joey. I know. Spoilers. I know Joey has his red eyes in season 4, but that can be symbolic because they got their promised duel. And when and that was the whole point. Once I become a true duelist, then red eyes can come back to me, right? Because it wasn't about winning or losing, which is funny because that's actually going to be a point that we'll be bringing up again in GX, specifically with Chumley, whose Japanese name I never looked up. If you'll give me a moment. So that way, sub-only watchers know who the hell I'm talking about when I refer to that character. I mean, he's a minor character, so not very many people might care, but I care, so I'm going to look him up. There you are. His Japanese name is not shown until I hit that button. Hayato Mida. Hayato Mida. That is his. That is the name of the thing. So Hayato, right? The dude who looks like a koala. Yeah, him. But anyways, we'll be bringing that up in regards to him a bit later in GX. When it comes to GX. But but again, we can have the epic duel. We can have an epic thing. Maybe Red Eyes comes into play. Maybe it doesn't. Joey takes back Red Eyes, proves that he has the potential. Blah 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 blah. Hell, I'd even go so far as to, even though this is a beat that would be repeated in GX if they went this route, I would have Yugi's final turn be, all right, Jonouchi. All right, Joey. You're worthy enough to face a god. We all already know you're worthy to face a god. Now you're ready to face my god. And, maybe even have that be a thing where how Yugi wins is because he gets Osiris on the field and, he can't overcome that. I mean, because let's face it, it was sheer force of will and a survival of an attack, and also a technicality when it comes to summoning god cards from the graveyard, heard, that allowed Jonouchi to overcome Raw. Let's face it, he didn't overcome Raw. Uh, he he survived Raw. He did not. He didn't cure assimilation. Being assimilated by the Borg. He prevented being assimilated by the Borg. Props to anybody who gets that reference, by the way. But anyways, I'm not even going to tell you which Star Trek show that's from. I'll just tell you it's Star Trek, which I gave away with the Borg by saying the Borg. But anyways, my point in bringing this up, is I think that would have been just better. And then you don't have it be in that alley, the Millennium Necklace showing Yugi that vision. Show it as the Duel Tower, right? And then and hell, you can even have and but oh well, okay, that wouldn't work because remember, Kazuki Takahashi wants to paint Seto as a dumbass in 9 episodes. Well, not a dumbass, but more like an asshole. Again. Yes, Seto's. I do think Seto's speech is better. I will acknowledge you as an actual duelist. I just wish they had followed through on that, and Kazuki Takahashi didn't fucking forget like 2 duels later, because that would. Eh. Actually, what's funny is that I need to actually read through the manga. I actually need to see if Battle of the Bronze is in the manga. I'll look that up later. I'll read through after I wrap up this video, but yeah. Uh, but yeah. I suppose we should just get right on into it. So I'm just gonna go through the episode and we'll just talk about it. So they the pods rise to the top up in like a weird like pattern, like, here, let's go through a fucking maze for some reason. I don't know what the fuck's up with that, but whatever. Then Tristan is cock blocked. Shouldn't somebody go, because Duke and Notugi are like, shouldn't we let Serenity slash Shizuka know that, shouldn't we let Joey's sister know that he's doing? And, Tristan is like, I'll go. Oh, and then Mokuba's just like, zip your pants back up and get back here, Tristan. I'll call her. Is that the basis for that fan art? That fan art of Mokuba and Serenity holding hands while an exasperated Seto and Joey look on. On is that the premise? Is that where that's from? I wonder if I even have that thing. Don't worry, this won't take me long. And because if it's anywhere, it'll be in that folder. And there's not a lot in that folder. I do not have it, which is a shame because that is a fucking hilarious picture. But yeah, no, it. Yeah, but no. In total seriousness, in total seriousness, I do love that scene. That scene makes me laugh. It's great, awesome. You know, it wouldn't, if this episode continuously pissed me off, it wouldn't be enough to yank it out of of rant view if it had dipped that low, but would have been a good step. Yep. I'll go ahead and admit it. Episode 4 in the sub is what elevated this to a D rank, by the way. So Jonouchi Dies is the episode that's actually awesome. But yeah. So then Kaiba reveals in both versions that he translated Raw and that he's treating Joey like a guinea pig, and insulting him in the process because Seto's got to be a fucking asshole in this arc. Okay, real talk. Outside of the whole engines being damaged thing, this still pains me to no end. Here's the thing about the whole the damaged engines thing, okay? You can literally just say that it will take, X amount of time for a doctor to come by via helicopter, even in the fastest helicopter Kaiba Corp has. You know? Like, I would argue the blimp was not exactly going at high speed, but it still took an entire night, right? Okay, let's ignore the virtual world arc for a second. It still took, at bare minimum, an entire night for the blimp to reach Alcatraz, right? I mean, for God's sakes, they were like what, 5 minutes away, or like no, or no, what was it, like an hour away? When when Noah intercepted them, you know. But whatever. So then we get more dialogue of people being shocked, being super shocked that Joey is trying to fight Ape Marik. Oh my god. You know, I think what pisses me off the most is that if this was real life, all you would need to make this not stupid is to have one adult show up. Like, you could even have it be fucking Roland and just kind of overhear this and then just kind of poke his head over and say, "Of course he's fighting for Mai. Of course he's fighting for Mai. He's a teenage boy, hey, and she's a beautiful woman. Woman, I mean, come on. This isn't rocket science. I mean, it's you pathetic teenagers." And in my setting, Roland would even just look at them and like, well, or sorry, Yu-Gi-Oh rewrite, I would look at, you know, if I was to keep, Joey being the one fighting Marik as opposed to what I might change it to, in a rewrite, Roland would just look at them and go, "Of course he's fighting for for a pretty woman." Woman. I mean, come on. He's a teenage boy. Even Mr. Kaiba's got a girlfriend. And lest you forget, it, 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 and a very powerful one at that. But of course, though that's not surprising because as Mr. Kaiba's taste in women has always been powerful. Yes, I'm just cracking jokes because this episode gave me almost nothing through parts 1 through 3. So, then Tim says something that's very very interesting because he says it effectively in both versions. 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 Yeah, I don't have a lot of notes. I really don't have a lot of notes for for the sub of part 1. Semifinals of Darkness? I've got nothing, you know. But in the dub, so in both the sub and the dub, Atem basically says the same thing, just in a different flavor. Because Yugi is trying to convince Atem, we gotta stop Joey. We can't let Joey go through with this. And Atem in both versions basically looks at Yugi and says, why the fuck am I going to be that much of an asshole to Joey? Now, he doesn't say it like that in either version, but in the dub, he says, I promised I'd stop coddling him. I'm going to keep that promise. Promise. This is his fight, and we need to let him do this. But we need to let him do this, Yugi. And in the sub, Atem tells Yugi, Jonouchi chose this fight. We need to have faith in him. Him. But other me, Aibo. We need to believe in Jonouchi. Head out of ass. Have some fucking faith. Now, he doesn't say it quite that dickishly, but it is what he's saying. He's standing firm. No, we have to let him do this. We have to stop coddling him. You know? And I agree with that, by the way. I absolutely agree with that. Stop coddling him and let him fight this. So then the first round happens. Joey doesn't have a very good opening hand, and uh, then he started. Then Marik starts up the shadow game. The energy streams happen. Joey gets some good moves in. Then the Hidden Soldier's Trap card shows up, and that's when Plasma Eel comes out, which zaps both Panther Warrior and Joey via the energy streams, because you feel all of the pain your monsters do. Yeah. So then Helpoemer shows up as my phone starts to run low on battery. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. Helpoemer shows up, and that leads us into part 2. Because Helpoemer starts taking cards out of Joey's hand randomly. So Atem has a brain in both versions. Because what's happening here is Marik has 3 face downs left and just Drolargo, because Helpoemer's in the graveyard. And the others are saying, don't let him provoke you, don't attack. And Atem says, no, attack, go for it. In the dub, he says, both of them have a point. In the dub, Atem is saying, no, attack, get him to use up his trap cards. In the sub, Atem is saying, no, attack and make Marik reveal his strategy. Because then once you know the strategy, you can circumvent the strategy. I mean, granted the strategy is as simple as get Jinzo on the field, but that's beside the point. But that'll come up in a bit. So then Rocket Warrior lowers Drolargo's attack. Well, sorry to say, Card of Last Will gives Marik a fresh hand, because Card of Last Will, when attack points change, it allows Marik to draw 5 new cards. Wait, did he use that against am I repeating myself? That sounds to me like I'm repeating myself. Give me a moment. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Ref. Fear. Forfeiting, not doing shit. Yes, actually. Huh. So, Card of Last Will is used, like it was during Mind Game. I mean, to be fair, that's been a while, so there's that. And then Marik starts using Coffin Seller and the Helpoemer combo to start draining a bit of Joey's life points, and then manages to summon Legendary Fiend, which is a monster that starts weak and that gets stronger the more it goes. Huh. I could have sworn we dealt with a version of Nixodia that had that exact same effect, now that I'm thinking about it. Well, okay, it was a different form, if you want to argue semantics, but whatever. Actually, if you attacked it multiple times, would that mean its attack would go up 2,000 in a turn for Exodia Necros? I'll look it up later, and then future Alex will have text on screen. Of whether or not he thinks that would work. Then we're also, all throughout this, we're cutting back and forth between scenes with Ishizu and Serenity, and these are the epitome of fucking pointless. All of Serenity's scenes amount to the same goddamn thing. She's worried about her brother. And Ishizu literally has no point but to say, all I can do is sit and watch. All I can do is see how this goes. And that's the end of that statement. Whatever. Also, Ishizu asks a really fucking stupid question in the sub. Will he not be set? Will Marik not? Will the evil side of Marik not be satisfied until all has been cast into the darkness? Yes, that's exactly what he fucking said multiple fucking times. You dumbass. And that's not even me projecting. He's literally said that multiple times in the sub, which is where she asks that stupid question. What the fuck? Ugh. Also, I'm very sick of the flashbacks. But I've already bitched about that. So then Joey whips out the spell card question. So this is where I gotta mention that the graveyard is not public knowledge. This is how Marik is literally basically incapable of correctly guessing which monster it is. Although there is a flaw with that logic, and it's one that kind of is a bit of a plot hole. Uh how does Yami Marik not know Jinzo's there until Jinzo shows up? This is more of a plot hole in the sub, believe it or not, than in the dub, because one little added, like 2 words added to the dialogue when Jinzo shows up, literally plugs this plot hole. Well, I guess not so much plugs it, so much as puts a little puts a bit of plaster over it, cocks it, puts some caulking in there, or to kind of clog it up. What do I mean by this? In the sub, he says Jinzo, Psycho Shocker, real what? As if he's shocked. Like, wait, where the hell did Psycho Shocker come from? Marik in the dub? Oh no, not Jinzo! In other words, he didn't want to you know. Now what's funny is that Merrick could have literally just guessed, "Oh wait, there's only one monster that could get Joey out of this." So I'll say that monster's name. And of course, he would have been right. Jinzo would have been knocked out and Joey would have lost. But Merrick's dumb, so there it is. And I know he has to be effectively too panicked to answer correctly, actually, in order for this to work. So that is one bit of because plot I'm willing to go with. Joey losing because he's out of stamina, not so much. Because again, I think you could have gotten creative with that. So then Mokuba is just like, oh wow, Joey's doing actually really well and he's getting the upper hand. And both Seto and Kaiba have the same point. Don't underestimate somebody who has an Egyptian god card in their deck. As much as I am sick to death of him, and as much as I'm hating him in these episodes, he does have a point. So then Dark Wall of Wind blocks the attack, and then Jinzo and another one of his monsters, I think it's actually Baby Dragon, gets sacked so that Lava Golem can start burning away some of Joey's life points each turn. And that ends part 2. So then in part 3, Relieve Monster effectively cycles Plasma Eel so that it can be used as a defense as opposed to a torture device. And then Machine Duplication multiplies them to 3, which then prompts Joey to use Graceful Dice to increase its attack points. and then sack his 3 monsters in order to go ahead and bring out his ultimate monster. A monster that is effectively a very close second to the Egyptian god cards. Gilford the Lightning. Sack 3 monsters, it comes out and nukes the field. Love it. And if not from Nightmare Mirror, yeah, Joey would have won right then and there. Unfortunately, though, Marik draws his Monster Reborn, activates it, and puts Raw into its Phoenix mode. Ishizu goes and encourages Serenity to go and watch her brother Duel while she looks after Mai. Hey, and then we spend like the entire rest of part 3 after Marik activates Monster Reborn just waiting for him to do so, and he doesn't even do it in this episode. We literally start part 4 with him doing that. God damn it. Also, a couple of things I should note. The effects are better explained in the sub, and part 2 is terribly named, although I commented on that earlier, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. This is where in the sub the repetition was starting to really fucking get to me because they kept repeating the same fucking plot points over and over and over and over and over again. We get it, Seto. We know you who know the effects of Raw. We don't need you to interrupt Joey's duel just so that you can explain Raw's effects. Piss off. Especially considering the only effect we don't know, aka what Phoenix Mode does, literally gets explained by Marik anyway. Ugh. Also, Seto has a really dumb line. I mean, that actually kind of makes him a hypocrite because of a later episode. Even Kaiba Corp's computers can't predict his moves, referring to Joey's moves. Jonouchi's moves. Yeah, Seto says with a scowl on his face, which makes him a giant hypocrite. What should have happened is he should have quietly thought of that self while smirking, maybe quietly admitting to himself, though he'll never say it out loud. Maybe Jonouchi and I have something in common after all. You know. So then Joey decides to attack with Lava Golem. Jonouchi fire! And then he summons, of course. That bit was actually kind of funny. And then Gilford the Lightning comes up, which I've already commented on, and then the rest of the episode is just waiting for Ra to attack. The Phoenix rises tonight! Ugh, fuck off. So then we get to Jonouchi Dies, and oh man, that scream in the Japanese version. Oh god. Wow. Seto also insults Jonouchi. You've been a great guinea pig. Hey Joey. Oh, it's really Seto. Do you have to be that much of an asshole? Ugh, whatever. Again, I stand behind my statement. Seto, even if Seto does not believe that the world is in danger in the sub, which I'm willing to accept, he knows how dangerous the god cards are. His computer blowing up. Do I need to keep emphasizing that? Because I will keep emphasizing that until the fucking cows come home. At least until the end of at least until the end of next episode. Because after next episode, he's not gonna have Obelisk anymore, and this whole quest to obtain the god cards and regain his title will be finally dead. At least until Pyramid of Light, but I can bitch about that then. And Then he accepts Joey as a true duelist. I'm gonna have to pay attention to Seto's dialogue during Battle for the Bronze. Because, yeah, no. His acceptance is cool in a vacuum, but when you take it in conjunction with the rest of it, it's hollow, in my opinion. Not quite as hollow here, but considering this literally will not lead to Seto treating Jonouchi with any more respect in the fucking future, is just no. One thing I do like is Joey when Jonouchi does go down in the sub, Seto does not order them not to leave. With that order being a moot point because the engines are destroyed, like in the dub. That is admittedly the point that and Mokuba's desperation in the sub. That's what tipped the needle over to the sub to giving the sub the point. By the way, that and just the entirety of the way he died. Fun fact: if you only watch the dub, you actually miss a moment where Yami Marik almost pukes because of how hard he had to fight, to defeat Joey. That's impressive. It's also why I say he was robbed because he ran out of energy right before he declared his attack with Gilford. I also like the point where when Mokuba goes off to call the helicopter, he says, "I'm gonna go call a medical helicopter so we can get him to a real hospital. Don't tell my brother." I kind of like that because that shows that Atem is trying to help. Then the other part that gave the point to the sub, Atem loses his will to fight briefly because because Jonouchi was his reason for fighting in the tournament. Oh yeah, he wanted to regain his memories, and that was all cool. No, but his main purpose for dueling in this tournament was to fulfill that promise. It was one of the two goals. And the only thing that's keeping him going and fighting is how much he fucking hates Marik now. You know? And last point I have to talk about. Taya and Anzu are both fucking morons. I know that this is going to rub some people the wrong way, so I will try to explain myself. Why do I say both Anzu and Taya are fucking morons? Because they both ask the very simple question: why is Yugi going to go fight Kaiba? This is the stupidest fucking question either of these two versions of her, either fucking woman could fucking ask. Period. Taya's is the easiest to explain. Marik is going to blow up the world if we don't stop him, and we know this. It's in the dub. Anzu, shut the fuck up. For for Taya. Sorry, did I say Anzu? Shut the fuck up, Anzu. I meant shut the fuck up, Taya. Shut the fuck up, Taya. Just shut the fuck up. You know this has to fucking happen. Get your head out of your ass. Yes, people are going to be in danger, but again, it's either we risk a couple more people being lost, or we lose everyone, guaranteed. Pick. And for the love of fuck, don't pick what Chi Chi would pick. because she's a dumb bitch too. Anzu's side. Anzu asks, is fighting Kaiba more important than Jonouchi? Yes. Because Jonouchi is fighting, which means I need to keep fighting so that I can show him that neither of us are giving up. I am fighting for our promised duel. So I'm going to go face Kaiba. I'm going to go get past him. Then I'm going to put an end to Marik's bullshit once and for all. And then I'm going to have my destined duel with Jonouchi. I promised him I would face him as a true duelist, and I'm not going to back down from that promise. And of course he's not. Why would he? Because a Tem does not back down from a challenge. Two weeks in a row with Rage. Oh, and then everybody's gonna fucking hate me next week. Alright, so, real talk. I'm not looking forward well, from my perspective, tomorrow, because it's really late tonight. I shouldn't have even have bothered recording this thing until the morning, if I'm honest, but I wanted to get it done. Next is Clash in the Coliseum. I'm not looking forward to this. Because I know how this goes, and there's no two ways about it. There's a lot of bullshit shenanigans. Because effectively, this duel is where a lot of Battle Cities. Well, there's no nice way to say it. There's a lot of Battle Cities. A lot of Battle Cities rulings that are established in Clash of the Colosseum, which I want to remind you is effectively the third last duel of the arc. Not a good time to start introducing new rulings. But we'll get into all of that next time. I have no idea how long I'm going to be talking about the duel next time, but yeah, there's a lot of plays I'm going to have to talk about, including the debut of a a set of monsters that, fun fact, two rivals actually both utilize, namely Seto and Manjome Thunder from GX, which is kind of funny in that regard. And of course, will be crushed by a version of Karibo. Ebo, where'd you get transcendent wings? Means. Well, I got it because I'm sweet on little old ladies. I still have to look up her age because I do not buy that she's old. Anyways. Anywho, I'm just gonna chop off. Return of the Darkness. Yes, I recorded it late. Let me know what you guys think of this idea. And I will see you guys next time for Clash of the Coliseum. Oh, I am not looking forward to that. That's going to be an all-day thing, which is funny because there's two episodes that are going to be that. Because keep in mind, I effectively have to watch 12 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, technically. Because remember, I have to watch all 6 parts in the dub, and then I have to go through it all in the sub. Until next time, Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one. Duel standby. Joy should have won.